to our meeting of the Pyrenees Shire Council, 20th of September. I apologise for the delay, but we've had some technical issues. We hope we do not have any more. I'd like to ask that we stand for a moment's silence in honour of Queen Elizabeth II. Thank you very much. I'll now do the opening prayer. Heavenly Father, we ask you to give your blessing to this council, direct and prosper its deliberations to the advancement of your glory and the true welfare of the people of the Pyrenees Shire. Amen. Please be seated. As the meeting chair, I give my consent for this open council meeting to be streamed live, recorded and published online. Anyone who is invited to read out a question or a presentation will be recorded, and their voice, image and comments will form part of the live stream and recording. The chair and or the CEO have the discretion and authority at any time to direct the termination or interruption of live streaming. Such direction will only be given in exceptional circumstances where deemed relevant. Circumstances may include instances where the content of debate is considered misleading, defamatory, or potentially inappropriate to be published. The stream will stop prior to the closed section of the meeting and will recommence at the conclusion of the meeting. The public is able to view this live stream via our website at www.pyrenees.vic.gov.au. Should technical issues prevent the continuation of the stream, the meeting will be adjourned until the issue is resolved, or the meeting will be postponed to another time and date in accordance with Council's meeting procedures and governance rules. Acknowledgement to country. We acknowledge the peoples past and present of the Wadawurrung, Dja Dja Wurrung, Eastern Mara and Watchaballock tribes, whose lands form the Pyrenees Shire. We pay our respects to the customs, traditions and stewardship of the land by the elders and people of these tribes on whose land we meet today. There are no apologies with us being present. Are there any disclosures of interest by councillors or officers? None noted. Thank you. Confirmation of the previous minutes. Recommendation that the minutes of the ordinary meeting of council held on the 16th of August 2022, as previously circulated to councillors, be confirmed. Moved Councillor Clark, seconded Councillor Keogh. All those in favour? Carried. Is there any business arising? None. Thank you. Public participation. Question time. Members of the public are encouraged to ask questions of council at ordinary council meetings. Members of the public may attend the meeting in person or verbally ask a question. All attendees must register by midday on the day of the meeting to ensure council adheres to the number of attendees permitted under COVID safe plan. To register, either call 1300 797 363 or visit pyrenees.vic.gov.au about Pyrenees Shire Council, council meetings, council meeting attendance. Members of the public who are unable to attend in person can participate in question time by submitting their questions in writing, either online through the council's website, by mail or hand delivered. A person can ask a maximum of 2 questions at any one meeting on any topic, and the questions and responses shall not exceed 5 minutes. Questions are to be received by 12 noon on the day of the meeting. questions are read by the chairperson during public participation. The chairperson or councillor or council officer to whom the question is referred may immediately answer the question, take the question on notice for the next ordinary meeting. Public submissions also run under these rules. Councillors, we have item 10, items for noting. Are there any questions? Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Question of the Chief Executive. The project reports talks about around 6 bridges the council's got planned either currently or over the next 3 or 4 months. Mr. Nolan, where does that situate? I know we have a number of bridges that we've got work to do on over the coming years. Where does this situate us once we get these 6 done, please?
Thank you, Councillor Clark, for that question. Bridges are a really important part of council's overall service. We have about 2,000 kilometres of road that council is responsible for across the municipality, and around about 150 bridges, bridge structures on that road network. Given that a bridge structure would tend to have a life, useful life between 50 and 80 years, that would, you would expect to be replacing around about 3 bridges a year, 2 or 3 bridges a year. At the moment, we have about 6 bridges which are either commenced or substantially completed or soon to commence. So it does represent a somewhat bigger program than what we would normally undertake with our bridge works. Council has, in the last couple of years, bolstered its engineering team to undertake some advanced design work around bridges, and part of that design has enabled bringing forward some of the works that we're doing now in response to some of the funding that has been made available both at the Commonwealth and state level. In terms of the bridge works themselves, of course, we are in, at the start of the spring season, and it's a challenging time of the year to be building bridges, and we're very well aware of that. And there have been some difficulties in completing these bridges with the wet weather. And we do appreciate the fact that for members of the public, detours can be a challenging time. It is important that we do this work, however, and often side tracks around bridges are just not practically possible, given the terrain and the native vegetation that's involved there. So, I really appreciate the patience from the community. What's really important, though, is that these bridge works that we are doing now will remove impediments to our that exist on our road network from being able to take high mass vehicles. And it is part of council's plan to increase the length of our road network that's able to be accessed by higher mass vehicles to support our agriculture industry and other industry that's necessary to actually access properties across the Shire. So the works that we're undertaking at the moment actually will in fact free up some of those roads to be able to be accessed for higher mass vehicles. Some of the works that are being done at the moment, Councillor Clark, there's a bridge on the Carnham-Stratham Road, which is just west of Trawalla West Road, which is substantially completed. We've got a bridge on the Moonabel-Warramang Road, which is substantially completed. And there's a bridge on the Lamplowell Greenhill Creek Road, Lamplowell, which is more than 50% completed at this stage. And we've got 2 other bridges that have not started yet that we expect to be starting sometime between now and December, including a bridge 11 over the Beaufort-Carnham Road and a bridge on the Raglan-Elmhurst Road at Raglan. In addition to that, there's a bridge 10, which is currently out for tender. That's a substantial bridge, which is also on the Beaufort-Carnham Road. Now, I think we all know that the Beaufort-Carnham Road is very heavily trafficked road. There are 2 bridges in this program that are on that road. It will come at significant inconvenience for members of the public who use that road, particularly given the high traffic volumes. But it's really important work that we do and will be a great investment into the future. So I thank Councillor Clark for the question.
Thank you, Mr. Nolan. Any other questions, councillors? Can I have someone move the reports? Councillor Ferrari, seconded Councillor Vance. All those in favour? Carried. We have councillor activity reports. Assembly of councillors. Items for decision. Economic development and tourism. Mr. Nolan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is to provide an update on Council's sponsorship commitment of the Avoca and Beaufort Town markets. A sponsorship proposal by the Beaufort Progress Association was brought to a council for consideration in April 2022, with the following motion being passed. One, that council approves sponsorship of $5,000 per year over 3 financial years commencing 1st of July 2022, and 2, increases its annual sponsorship budget by $5,000 a year to accommodate the request. At the time of preparing this report, a number of markets had been held, and the markets accommodate both local and people travelling into the region. The monthly markets encourage visitors to stay over weekends and go shopping, and so they actually contribute significantly to the vitality of our community and also our local economy. The Beaufort Progress Association has advised council that their market coordinator has withdrawn from the role because of changing employment circumstances. And due to these circumstances, the association has reviewed its position and decided to discontinue its involvement in running the town markets. A subgroup of BPA comprising residents from Avoca has been coordinating the Avoca town market during the past 3 winter months and is willing to continue it as a host in the future. This will take some time initially, but they will remain under the auspice of BPA until this group works towards achieving its own incorporation in order to establish their own independent body to operate the markets over the long term. Council officers are providing support to the Avoca group as required and are developing an expression of interest process, which has already been put out through our media channels to seek applications from organisations in Beaufort who may individually or collectively wish to run the Beaufort town market in the future. That's in the efforts to actually continue the markets in both towns. So it is recommended, councillors, that on the basis of a new incorporated association being formed to run the Avoca markets, that the recommendation is that council retains its original sponsorship commitment of $5,000 per year over 3 years to support the 2 town markets. That should the above mentioned funds be required from council for the new market hosts, and that would be the new incorporated association or another body sought through the expression of interest, then the CEO be authorised to approve them. That the funds mentioned under 1 and 2 above be shared equally between the Avoca and Beaufort markets, and that the market host organisation meets council's eligibility criteria in addition to the usual terms and conditions for sponsorship support.
Thank you, Mr. Nolan. We have a recommendation in front of us, councillors. Moved Councillor Vance, seconded Councillor Clark. Any discussion, councillors?
Yeah, I think this is a wise investment, Mr. Mayor. It's obvious that the markets are very popular and it's bringing people into our community and outside money. So, and good friendships and acquaintances are made, I know, around these marketplaces. You always come across somebody that you know and you've got something in common. So I'm sure it's a good investment on behalf of the people of the Pyrenees Shire.
Thank you, Councillor Lennon. Anyone else? All those in favour? Again, all those in favour? Carried. Tourism developments. Mr. Nolan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is to provide council with the status of the visitor economy within the Pyrenees Shire. I won't go through the detail of this. It speaks for itself in the report, Mr. Mayor, and it's quite lengthy. But in essence, it identifies that tourism within the Pyrenees Shire comprises a number of subsectors, including food and beverage, accommodation and retail. And of course, it is also part of the wine growth and production sector. So tourism in the Pyrenees contributes something in the order of $32 million per annum in output in 2021. And over the last couple of years, there's been some significant changes that have occurred as a result of COVID, and this part of the economy has actually been impacted significantly by COVID. But what is outlined in this report, Mr. Mayor, is the support that's being provided and the opportunities that exist to support this sector in our economy. In the first instance, there are a number of networking events that have been supported and facilitated to assist businesses in growing their business. The issue of human resource shortages is a factor that's impacting on our individual businesses, and that's not just within the Pyrenees, but it's a problem that exists across the state. And there is some support that's being provided to businesses to assist them in how to address that issue. Small Business Bus is again a resource that's available in our communities, and that bus is going to be visiting Beaufort on the 3rd of October and in Avoca on the 6th of October, providing free advice to small businesses on some of those issues that are contained in this report. There are upcoming small business workshops, and the details of those are contained in the report, but effectively in October, there's a advanced Talking Your Business Online workshop, and then there's a Generating Cash Flow workshop in November. There is a range of events being conducted across the Shire over coming months, and this is part of a campaign to get visitors into the region. And the details of that are contained in the report, with numerous events to be held across the Shire, including Pyrenees Magic Tri Circuit. There's the Avoca Big Thank You Community Groups Expo. There's a Road Wine and Music Festival in September. In fact, that's that's just been held. The Australian Roganing Championships in October. There's the D's Waterloo Challenge Equestrian Endurance event, Blue Pyrenees Avoca Cup, which is traditionally held in October. There's Light the Night event. There's the Trawalla Hall Spring Plant and Garden Fair, and the 120th Lake Goldsmith Rally, as well as the Beaufort Agricultural Show in November, and the Eel Skinners and Duck Pluckers Ball in Caramballic in December. So there's no shortage of events, Mr. Mayor, and that's just some of those held, in addition to smaller events held in smaller communities. Other factors that are relevant to tourism, there is the Red Series, which is where wineries from the Grampians Pyrenees were able to resume that event which was held in Ballarat in July. in order to raise awareness and promote Pyrenees and Grampians wine to the markets of Ballarat and Melbourne. There's also Victoria by Farmers' Daughters, where Ballarat and surrounds will be the first region in residence at this new event to promote food and beverages from across regional Victoria, which is commencing in this month. There's some further details about that groundbreaking culinary and wine experience that stems from that activity, which is based in Federation Square, Melbourne. And the purpose of that is really to take our produce to the broader market. So, Mr. Mayor, that's just a snippet of some of the activities occurring from a tourism perspective. The purpose of the report is really to alert council and community to those activities, and particularly to support our tourism sector that has been impacted by COVID over recent years. So the recommendation, Mr. Mayor, is that council continues to support the tourism sector in the Pyrenees as businesses rebuild following the COVID-19 pandemic through promotion and business support outlined in this report. And that secondly, council considers a further progress report on the matter and on regional tourism activities in early 2023.
Thank you, Mr. Nolan. Councillors, I have moved Councillor Clark, seconded Councillor Keogh. Any questions, Councillor Clark?
No, just a comment. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I think really important to support this, and we don't want to dwell too much on the negative, but the figures are really quite significant. It's 20% decline in accommodation and about a 13% decline in food and beverage in that pandemic period. And the events show that we're actually tipping that around. So I think it is really important that council does continue to provide the support it does and continue to monitor this closely. And I look forward to the figures being much better in 2023 when we see how we've got through this year.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Anyone else?
Sorry, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to reiterate that, I think it's so important and essential, but it's also amazing to see what people have been able to get going across the events from the south to the north of the Pyrenees Shire, and just a shout out for people to get to them, because they are really top class events, and we're really proud to be able to show off our Shire areas. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Keogh. Mr. Nolan, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I may. Could you give us a very short explanation of Rogaine? What it is? Because I've tried to look it up, but I'm unable to get an explanation of it. I know it's being held.
I might defer that question to
Ms. Gleisner.
Thanks for your question, Mr. Mayor. It's a high-level orienteering type activity.
Thank you. Councillors, all those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Asset and Development Services, Neighbourhood Safer Place Assessment. Ms. Gleisner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this report's been prepared to assist council in considering the outcomes of our annual Neighbourhood Safer Place Assessment, which includes 4 new sites that have been recommended in the locations of Amphitheatre, Barclay, Crowlands and Raglan. There's legislative requirements for council to review these sites annually. And as part of that annual review process, council must ask the CFA to assess each neighbourhood safer place in accordance with the CFA assessment guidelines. That's now been completed. So we have 9 existing locations that have been assessed by the CFA and deemed to be compliant. And these include the sites at Natty Alec Recreation Reserve, Red Bank Recreation Reserve, Snake Valley, St Brigidine, Catholic Church, sorry. The Warborough Recreation Reserve, the Avoca High Street Median, the Beaufort Witherspoon Park, Landsborough Recreation Reserve, Lexton Tollbar Park, and the Moonambell Recreation Reserve. The 4 new sites have also been assessed, and they include the Bakery Park at Amphitheatre, Crowlands Hall site and Raglan Recreation Reserve, which those three have been deemed as compliant, subject to some prescribed maintenance activities. But the fourth site, being Barclay Hall, that's still under question. CFA's response is that they're somewhat concerned about the site's capacity to withstand the radiant heat impacts of a bushfire due to the large eucalyptus trees. But we are continuing to work with them to see if the building itself, not just the site, but the building itself can serve as that neighbourhood safer place. So council do spend a small amount in supporting the land manager to manage these sites for the purposes of keeping them safe and keeping that heat flux to a low level that will allow people to be safe if they do need to attend these locations. I do note there's been a slight adjustment to the recommendation, which has been forwarded through to administration and will be reflected in the minutes. Just a technical correction, but the recommendation shown at point 1 stays unchanged, and that is that council notes the outcome of Pyrenees Shire Council's Neighbourhood Safer Place Assessment conducted by the CFA and publishes the list of previously described neighbourhood safer places on council's website. Recommendation 2 has been slightly amended, and it is that council commence the gazettal process for designating the 3 new neighbourhood safer places at Barclay Park Amphitheatre, Crowlands Hall in Crowlands and the Raglan Recreation Reserve in Raglan, and that we commit to undertaking the prescribed site preparatory works. The third recommendation is that council further investigates the site for a neighbourhood safer place in the locality of Barclay. I should take the moment to note that the gazettal and activation of these sites can take some time, and we would just urge that the community await formal advice as to whether the 3 new sites will be active for this coming season, just as a matter of caution. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Geisner. Councillors, moved Councillor Keogh, seconded Councillor Clark. Any discussion, councillors?
Again, thank you for the work. This is essential and it's an incredibly important part of what we do to keep our community safe. So thank you to pass on to everyone that's been involved in that and particularly those new areas, because there's a lot to go through with that. But again, it's keeping our community safe. So thank you.
Councillor Vance.
Yeah, I still would like to see Barclay given more serious consideration, because I cannot see the difference between Raglan and Barclay. Raglan have got trees right around the area. Barclay only has trees on the western side, which doesn't contain any forest once you get past the few trees that are in the reserve behind the Barclay Hall. It has road surface on 3, sealed road out the front of the hall and gravel roads on 3 sides. And a wonderful new kitchen and the obvious wonderful new kitchen and the obvious place for the community to gather. The fire shed is close by. They have a truck in Barclay. And I just am a little bit bewildered as to why the appropriate authorities see Barclay a little bit different to some others. That's all I wish to say.
Thank you, Councillor Vance. I'm sure the further investigation we're going to continue into Barclay will prove fruitful. Councillor Clark.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'd just like to reiterate Councillor Keogh's comments to thank the officers for continuing to work on those other communities we've been working on now for a number of years to get them in and have a neighbourhood safer place for them. It's very important.
Thank you. Thank you, councillors. All those in favour? Carried. Bakery Park Amphitheatre. Ms. Geisner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the purpose of this report is to provide information to council regarding options proposed to mitigate risk associated with a large peppercorn tree at the Bakery Park in Amphitheatre. The background of this matter is that council received a customer action request regarding the structural integrity of a large peppercorn tree at the centre of Bakery Park. The tree is estimated to be more than 100 years old and has an association with the form of bakery at the site. Council sought an arborist inspection of the tree, and the reports determined that the structural integrity of the tree is causing a major risk to park users and is likely to fall if intervention is not undertaken. Council notified the community of its intention to remove the tree through its notice board and through a media release, which resulted in feedback from the community advising that the tree had historic value and should be preserved if possible. The details of the arborist report proposed 3 options, with the first being that a major pruning to lessen the weight of the limbs be undertaken. The second being that the supporting limbs, that the limbs be supported via an engineered structure. And the third being the removal of the tree altogether. There were several views voiced at the council community cuppa held last week, including suggestions on how the tree could be preserved, whilst acknowledging the risk that the tree posed. The general consensus amongst the group at the time was that the tree be heavily pruned to at least 50% of its current size, and that the tree be monitored for further decay and structural deterioration. There's been some costing undertaken, and I know that they are estimates only and not formal quotes, but in its current form and the risk that it proposes, the estimated cost for the structural support of the tree, which would have been the option 2, is between $30,000 to $50,000. The heavy pruning of the trees estimated to be between $3,000, and that there'd also be some fencing, picnic table relocation, and mulching that's expected to be at an approximate further $10,000. The removal of the tree in its entirety is forecasted to be between $3,000 and $5,000. And then just to get straight to the point, the recommendation before council tonight is that council undertakes a structural reduction prune of the peppercorn tree in Bakery Park in Amphitheatre, that council relocates the picnic tables and fences the tree off to restrict access by children and other members of the public. And 3, continues to monitor the tree following the proposed works to mitigate any further risks that the tree may pose.
Thank you, Mr. Vice. We have a recommendation, councillors. Moved, Councillor Clark, seconded, Councillor Vance. Councillor Clark.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it was a really informative and really good discussion that we had last week with the amphitheatre community, and they were actually, I think they came with some clear views, and we had some good information to relay to them, and I think out of that we all walked away with a pretty good understanding of what we could do. And I think it's very fair that council, from I suppose original consideration potentially of having to remove the trees, that we should at least have a crack at trying to save it. Now, whether we can save it or not, I think that's something we'll know in 6 or 12 months in that sense. But the solution proposed, I think today is most of a very practical one in the context of what we can do and recognising that history and that kind of sense of things. And I don't know that the words are perfect, but I think it certainly gives council some clear intention to work with and gives the Chief Executive Officer what he needs to do, which is obviously to deal with the tree, to make the park safe for people. And I think once we've done that, assess what's our next step. Because it's a bit hard from this point of view to say what other things can we do to that, I think, until we get those branches down off the tree and work from there. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Any other councillors? I'd like to reiterate Councillor Clark's comments. I think it was a great meeting last week at Amphitheatre, and it's our normal practice on our first briefing for the month to have a councillor cuppa. They have now moved from the 1 o'clock start to the 5 o'clock start to try and make available the councillors to more people within the Shire. So for anybody listening, please check the diaries or the website to find out when we may be in your area. And please take advantage of taking the opportunity to come and talk to council face to face. We appreciate you coming, and we appreciate the opportunity to discuss matters. Councillors, all those in favour? Carried. Corporate and Community Services, carryover of expenditure and income to 2022-23 financial year. Ms. Bramwell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report sets those items of income and expenditure that need to be carried out forward to the current financial year budget from the previous financial year due to grants being received in advance and/or project activities spanning multiple financial years and as such finished on the 30th of June 2022. Each year following the completion of Council's annual statement, a process is undertaken to report information to Council relating to untied grants during the previous financial year that relate to this financial year and projects that continue to be works in progress and cross financial years. Carryover funds requested are supported by surplus funds in the 2021-22 budget. A reconciliation at the end of the last financial year was carried out to ensure that the list of carryovers is supported by surplus funds and the financial position of Council remains within the parameters of the 10-year financial plan. The total funds requested to be carried forward to the 2022-23 financial year will be sourced from the cash in excess of the forecast financial position contained within the Pyrenees Shire Council 22-23 budget. The approval of the carryovers will be within the parameters of the Pyrenees Shire Council 10-year financial plan. The reconciliation of the cash position of Council as at the 30th of June is as reported in the report. And that shows that just under 9.4 million is available to carry forward funds to the current financial year. Of this amount, 9.297 million is recommended to be added to the 2022-23 budget. This leaves an annual cash surplus of 87,000. The officer's recommendation is that Council approves the addition of 9,297 million to the 2022-23 budget to fund the attached list of carryovers.
Thank you, Ms Bramwell. Councillor, we have a recommendation. Councillor Vance, moved, seconded, Councillor Ferrari. Councillor Vance.
I'm sure it was just a mere slip of the tongue. If we've got 9,000 million, we're doing pretty good.
No, I didn't mean 9,000, sorry.
Sorry, Ms Brown.
My apologies, Councillor.
I got excited there for a moment.
I was looking for a holiday.
We could all have a holiday. Every ratepayer in the Shire with that much money. No, I didn't mean to be facetious, but yeah, I'm sure this is a procedural matter and I'm happy to support it.
Thank you, Councillor Vance. Anyone else? All those in favour? Carried. Council Plan Progress Report. Ms Bramwell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is to provide Council with a progress report on actions planned to deliver the strategic goals and priorities identified in the Council Plan 2021-2025 as at the 30th of June 2022. In accordance with the Local Government Act, Council adopted the Council Plan at its ordinary meeting in October 2021, and the Council Plan outlines how the Council will work towards implementing the 10-year community vision. The plan was informed by the vision and is framed around 4 strategic priorities plus enabling principles. In February 2022, the Council also approved the operational projects and priorities for the next 2 years, which are designed to support the implementation of the Council Plan and on which work is progressing. The attached report provides a progress update against the operational plan as at the end of June 2022, including the annual report against the targets and measures included within the plan. The status of the initiatives scheduled for the financial year is identified against each individual item, and it should be noted that some items cross multiple years. And it's the officer's recommendation that Council considers and accepts the attached progress report against the Council Plan 2021-2025. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Bramwell. Councillors, we have a recommendation. Moved Councillor Clark, seconded Councillor Keogh. No discussion, councillors. All those in favour? Carried. Avoca car park extension. Mr. Nolan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is for council to consider a petition relating to the proposed works involving the Southern Car Park Extension project located in the central median in Avoca. At the August council meeting this year, council considered a report and resolved to remove 5 pine trees as part of the construction of the Southern Car Park Extension project located in the central median in Avoca. Subsequently, concerned residents in Avoca initiated a petition and presented the petition containing 191 signatures to the Mayor. This petition, Mr. Mayor, which is attached to this report and formally tabled here as part of this council report, has previously been circulated to councillors and senior officers and contains 191 signatures. Works on the car park were deferred until council had such time to consider the petition. The car park is also intended to accommodate an EV charging station. Community engagement through Council's Engagement Hub was undertaken early this year, seeking views from the community about preferred location for the EV charging station in Avoca, and a decision was made by council based on that community feedback for the EV charging station to be located in this car park, in the Southern Car Park. Access to adequate power is critical, and since the council decision, approximately $10,000 has been spent in having the power connected into the median from south of the Pyrenees Highway. And so power has now been made available in the vicinity of this proposed car park to accommodate the EV charging station. The petition attached to this report states as follows, that at a meeting of concerned residents in the proposed car park and proposed electric vehicle charging station near the Birdwood Street intersection on the 19th of August, it was proposed to seek your support for the following. 1, retain the pine trees. 2, request council to adopt option 3 of the Avoca Car Park Extension project. This can be viewed on council's website. Move the proposed EV charging station to a better location, perhaps in front of the Victoria Hotel. The proposed site is crammed and has a congested entry egress, all in or unsuitable for electric vehicles. So that's what's stated on the petition, Mr. Mayor. In respect to point 2 on the petition, as it relates to the reference to the council's website, the options that are referenced there relate to those contained in the council report that was tabled in August relating to the car park extension, which is copied below. So those options and option 3 identified the retention of the 3 larger trees and the removal of the removal of only 2 small trees, those 2 being under the existing power lines on the western side of the proposed car park, and retention of the 3 larger trees, Mr. Mayor. In respect of the first 2 items on the petition, these would appear to be contradictory in respect of the 2 smaller pine trees located under the power lines. However, consistent in the desire for the retention of the 3 larger pine trees. Should council choose to amend its original decision, Mr. Mayor, the design of the proposed car park construction would be required to be amended to accommodate the trees retained. In respect of the EV charging element in the petition, while there are concerns expressed about congestion, these factors can be reasonably addressed through a design, though it is not proposed to cater for large vehicles at this site, as there is currently no demand for this service. The proposed EV charging station is to provide for passenger vehicle charging, which is in growing demand. Should the demand change, then a further charging station may be required in future. Given that this matter has been the subject of a previous council decision which has been enacted to the extent the power is now available on the site, it is not recommended that council depart from that decision. In respect of the previous decision of council made at the August meeting to remove the trees, whilst council's governance rules provide limitations on the ability of decisions to be rescinded, the rules are absent in respect of amending decisions should council choose to consider an amendment to its earlier decision in the context of this petition. So, Mr. Mayor, I have not made a recommendation here other than in respect of the EV charging station as contained within the body of the report. But I will, and I'm respectful of the fact that at the August council meeting, council made a decision, and as officers of council, our role is to implement the decisions of the council. So I've set out some options for council available in the report, and I'm in your hands, councillors.
Thank you, Mr. Nolan. We've had the petition tabled. Would any councillor like to? Councillor Clark.
Mr. Mayor, if I can get a second, or I have a proposed motion to put to the floor of council, and it reads as follows. The council amend its decision from item 13.3.5 from the August 22 meeting to 1, confirm this as the location for the site of the EV charging station. 2, proceed with tree removal on the western side of the car park adjacent to the power lines and retain the existing trees on the eastern side of the car park. And 3, to continue to provide information to the community throughout the construction about these works being undertaken. I'm happy to move that.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Would anyone like to second it? Councillor Ferrari? Councillor Clark, would you like to?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I think our normal process in getting a petition is that we would get a petition at this meeting and we would then ask officers to deal with it. I thank the Evoca community for the speed and organisation that they've displayed in actually putting this together and getting back to us in pretty short time. It's allowed us to actually deal with this in this meeting tonight in that context of things. And I think full credit to them. They've made their view clear to us, and I think that's only right. That's what democracy is about. But it is for us as council to make a decision today. And I think in doing that, as the CEO has said, we've actually already made some investment in this site, and really in the short to medium term, the next 3 to 5 years, the demand for a charging station beyond just passenger vehicles is not envisaged anywhere in the conversations I'm having around the trap. So it's an appropriate site. It's certainly what the community originally picked. And that's a bit of the challenge in these processes. We've brought several bits of individual consultation together to a joint decision. And we've just got to work that through. And I think having now got the community's feedback, it's a bit clearer what we do. So the charging station definitely stays where it is. I think we take on board the fact about the trees on the power line have to go. That's absolutely clear. I'm not a fan of pine trees, but I'm happy to accept the Evoca community's view that those trees are providing a valuable service to the community in terms of shade at the moment. So let's let them stay. And the third part of the recommendation really is just a continuation of what was in the resolution from August last year about keeping the community informed. So a practical solution, I think, practical way forward, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Councillor Ferrari, no? Any other councillor? Councillor Vance.
Yeah, some suggestion about moving the EV station, but when you look at the current site that has been selected, you've got the Pyrenees Highway running east-west, and you have the Sunrays, you're running north-south. You've got your 2 major highways joining right where the EV station is, so it's pretty obvious to me that's a great spot for it. And on viewing those mature pine trees, they are part of the ambience of the main thoroughfare through Evoca. There are a couple more further up opposite the Vic Hotel, but I believe the public have brought it to us in a petition, and I certainly support the public's petition in this case.
Thank you, Councillor Vance. Councillor Keogh.
Again, I'd like to reiterate what Councillor Clark said. I think that really summed up where we need to go in this regard. But also, again, would like to thank the community, because we want to be able to hear what they want and to be able to meet those concerns within the parameters that we've got to decide on. So again, thank you to the community, as Councillor Vance just said, in being able to voice their concerns and their views, and again, hopefully this will come to a good resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Keogh. Councillors, we have a recommendation from Councillor Clark, moved and seconded. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you very much. National Local Roads and Transport Congress, Mr. Nolan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is to advise Council of an upcoming National Local Roads and Transport Congress and to seek support for Councillor Vance to attend the Congress. This is an annual event which is held by the Australian Local Government Association, and all municipalities across Australia are actually invited to this Congress in an effort to look at the opportunities to boost national productivity, improve safety on our local roads, and build more sustainable infrastructure. The Congress will also provide an opportunity to speak directly with federal decision makers around the issue of roads. The topics covered in the Congress will include how councils are using recycled materials to reduce emissions, transitioning from fossil fuels to electric powered cars and vehicles, the latest developments in heavy vehicles access, the role councils are playing in supporting and improving national productivity. Roads expenditure for Pyrenees Shire is quite a significant part of our budget. Mr. Mayor, you've heard us talk about bridges tonight, and obviously keeping abreast of what's happening at a national level is really important. The Congress this year is being held in Tasmania. And as is customary, Mr. Mayor, when councillors travel interstate, we seek council resolution around this. And to that extent, this report here is all about sort of providing transparency to community about travel arrangements for councillors, and it's seeking council resolution that supports the attendance of Councillor Vance at the National Roads and Transport Congress.
Thank you, Mr. Nolan. Councillors, we have a recommend. Moved Councillor Clark, seconded Councillor Ferrari. Any discussion, councillors? Thank you for nominating for the Congress, Councillor Vance. All those in favour? Carried. Council reports and general business. Councillor Vance.
Mayor, on the 9th of August, it's pleasing to see already that we've got progress in way after the discussion to get some streetscape projects up and looked at anyway. No, not necessarily saying they're going to be built at this stage of the piece, but at least we're looking at improving the streetscape in front of it. Or, yeah, exactly, it's all revolved around funds to be able to do it, but at least we've got the wheels in motion. We at the northern end of the Shire have been waiting for Pyrenees projects to look at the northern end, so this is a step in the right direction. Once again, brings to bear the fruit from our cuppers that we have with our councillors and the public. I was privileged to be able to be at the MAB special meeting that was called last week with regards to a restructure of the MAB's rules, which gathered quite a deal of discussion. And I feel at one stage the dummies might have been spat and the toys thrown out of the cot. by our Metro cousins who were fighting doggedly to keep their 2 votes to rural 1 vote. But anyway, at the end of the long discussion that took place, and I give full credit to the chair, our own councillor Clark, he handled a very difficult situation very admirably. Everybody got their chance to have their say. And at the end of the session, the vote went 57 to 13 in favour of 1 vote, 1 council. So 78 councils in Victoria had 1 vote. No longer do the Metros have 2 votes to our 1.
Well done, MAV.
And well done, Councillor Clark, who handled it beautifully. I did have a Timber Towns meeting organised for a week ago, but we had to put it back until next week with regards to the tyres report. Hope somebody had a mic turned on. I apologise for that. And it will be discussed next
Still not on.
Still not on. That's what's happening, isn't it? Turned itself off. And that will happen next week. We had rural councils had a forum at Dalesford a fortnight ago. We had about 170 councillors from across Victoria in attendance, and we were able as a board to present our advocacy approach for the upcoming state elections. And I think rural councils are getting more support now than we have done in all the years that I've been on the board. We have a very successful secretariat that's helping us along, and a wonderful chair in Marianne Brown. She does a great job. She's dedicated to her job, and she attends functions that make your head spin sometimes. She's all over the place promoting rural councils. And the other occasion I had was the energy power lines and the link discussion at Joel, where we had 1 ratepayer from the Pyrenees Shire there presenting their ideas about just how the job is going to function when the workers are in putting power lines up. I think through that section from Bulgana through to Warborough, it's pretty well accepted now that the lines are going to be overhead. It seems practical to put power lines up in hills and up and down hills because you've got to overcome the erosion that will go with it. It seemed pretty obvious to me. There's a section of line around the Darley township that may well go underground. And the other thing that came out of it that really impressed me was the mere fact that when it does go underground, it's not the end of the story. That when it's placed underground, it generates a massive degree of heat. So it's got to be covered with a fair depth of sand, and the amount of work that goes into it makes it very costly. So I am convinced that the majority of the lines will be overhead. That's it for me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Vance. Councillor Kerr.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I almost did the same thing with my microphone. In our area, we spoke about bridge works tonight during the meeting as well, and Bridge 32 is still currently being rebuilt, and but hopefully this will be completed soon. So it will be a terrific new bridge once it is completed. But again, we thank residents. It has been a very long and drawn out process, and the detours. So we thank everyone for keeping safe on those roads, and particularly as those roads are impacted by weather conditions at the moment for those detour roads. Today was a fantastic opportunity. We witnessed the graduation of the recent bunch of the Western Bulldogs Leadership Program participants. Knowing all the young participants that were a part of this year's group, it's just been such an incredible journey for them, and we saw the impact today when they presented, and particularly a shout out to young Harrison Grant, who is also giving great air to the importance of mental mental health with our farmers, and I'll be looking at residents to see some great stuff in that area from young Harrison. It was also wonderful again, just the other weekend, to be showing Jarla Pulford around our incredible communities of Ragland, Barclay and Redbank, and to see the fantastic jobs that has happened with the halls there. The community turnout is always incredible, and the amount of work those people put into keeping those communities alive, and these assets that are such a pinpoint for communities to be celebrating joyful events, sad events, all those events that happen in those communities. So those halls are just incredible assets, and those communities surrounding them, again, incredible people. And we were very warmly welcomed as always. It was also a wonderful opportunity, as Councillor Vance spoke to, actually everyone spoke to get to know more of the amphitheatre community last week. Again, an incredibly strong, committed community that represent their needs and are doing great things, looking out for each other. Just a shout out, there were two beautiful little community members, Will and Georgia, who also represented their community very well at our meeting last week. And I think that's just a sign of what a beautiful, vibrant community it is and continues to be an amphitheatre. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Keogh. Councillor Ferrari.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I was also over at Ampy, and we changed it to the cuppa to 5 p.m. and it seemed to work well. So I don't know whether we had such a good turn up because there's an issue with the tree over there from the Ampy community, or the time factor, or a bit of both. But it was really pleasing to see such a really good turn up and attendance. And I think the good thing about that, you can get a really much better feel about what the concerns are in the community, and perhaps it makes it easier for us to make some decisions and make the right ones when you get so many people turn up. So well done to the Ampy community. Had some ongoing discussions in relation to the Crupps gun, some ongoing discussions with the Beaufort Cricket Club. I did have the pleasure in attending the Beaufort Secondary College Deb Ball, and that was fantastic. And I congratulate all the Debs and their partners. They presented exceptionally well. It was really, really well done. And congratulations to them and the organisers, and of course the Beaufort Secondary College for that event. It was just fantastic. And I do note that the picture in the paper of me sitting in the chair and the buttons on my shirt at the front were quite tight. I did get reminded of that about a few constituents, but all I can say is I must have gone into the wardrobe and picked the wrong shirt, but I'll be much more mindful of that. So Rotary, I had some discussions in relation to Rotary, and they have a project that they're considering and going to pursue, which will be very, very worthwhile in relation to emergency management. And I'm sure more of that will come to light as time goes on. So that's about it from me, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ferrari. Councillor Clark. Try again.
Obviously, I'm not allowed to speak anymore. I've had my time. It's fair enough. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a few things in my patch. Still, the Western Renewables link obviously is of interest, and I've been talking to a few landholders around that. The other thing I got a chance to do last month was a tender briefing on what's called VNI West, which is a power line that's coming down from New South Wales through Corrine, through Bendigo, and joining up the Newland Terminal Station, which is obviously part of the renewables link to the west. And I think this kind of starts to put together what's going to be a pretty big jigsaw across the state for people to try and understand the amount of new power lines that we need everywhere if we're going to get this amount of renewables into Melbourne, where the power is needed. Just what's going to happen over the next 5 to 6 years is pretty incredible. And as I've been saying to people, there's a lot of talk in the media about targets, but I think targets actually are pretty easy. It's actually delivering is going to be the real challenge for governments of all persuasions on this. So if they're talking 50% by 2030, and now I hear you talk about 60, 65% by 2035. So to actually get that power there, so to get us 50% renewable power, 50% electric vehicles, when we're at about 1 to 2% at the moment, it's an enormous step. And I just say that for us to be aware, I suppose, of that in that sense of things. I also attended the MOB Technology Conference, and it was really good to see because we had our annual awards, and it's not just the big councils with lots of money that win those awards, it's the smaller rural councils. And Moorabool, one of our close neighbours in that sense, was one of those recipients in that sense. as I think was Yarriambiack Council. So again, your scale is not a limit to actually getting involved with technology, and that's a really good thing. I also had the chance to attend the Mount Bolton Lions annual changeover dinner. And Mount Bolton Lions, of course, is kind of based loosely in Lynmont, but it also incorporates the communities of Warburton and of Lexington. And we all know that service clubs are really important. And this was a club, of course, that the late Nancy Dean was the matriarch of for many, many years. And there was many, many references to Nancy looking down on them because about 2 years ago, they were at 4 members and they were going to close. They're now at 20. They've done an awesome job recruiting in that time and actually getting themselves back up and running. And it was a really terrific day to be there with those new members in that sense of things and the energy they bring. Of course, they played a really critical role in the fires in Lexington in 2019. They were a significant part of the catering effort that helped support Blaze Aid in that period. That's just one of the things that they do in our community. So that was a really, really good afternoon out in that sense. I also attended a State Commonwealth Games partner forum, which I think was a really interesting one in the sense, and again, we're only 3 years off the Commonwealth Games. We're not very far off it really. At the end of this year, we'll be 3 years away in that sense. And for us, a council like us who's kind of on the periphery of a Ballarat, which is a major hub, what does it mean to our community? Well, at the moment, I think I just say to the community, just cool your heels, because talking to people like Evan King, the CEO of Ballarat, and Daniel Maloney, the mayor, and some of the state officials, they've just got so much work to do at the moment to lock down where the village is going to be, where the events are going to be, that once I think we get to Christmas, they'll be able to clear their head and they'll be able to look a bit more regionally, and we'll be able to start some regional discussions about, having athletes, having activity, having visitors, that type of thing. So for the community, if you're excited about it, just cool your heels a little bit. And I think come 2023, we'll be able to have some really good positive discussions about our involvement in that. As Rob mentioned, he's involved with Rural Councils Victoria, and I've met now a couple of times with Mary-Ann Brown about election stuff, just to get MAV and rural councils aligned, and we're pretty close in that sense of things, and that's going to be really important in the election. Like Tanya said, the leadership forum was terrific this morning and this afternoon, the graduation of the young people, and it kind of just highlights to me how much Beaufort is almost a bit of a regional school for this area. Like there's kids from Warburton on that program. There's a lot of kids from Lexington go there. There's kids from right down south, Skipton and that kind of thing. It's quite a regional school and covers a very significant chunk of our shire. And the final one I'd just like to mention is I managed only to get to Raglan as part of the Grand Three Halls tour, but I certainly was really happy to get to Raglan. And of course, as soon as I got in the door, it wasn't about what we'd done. It was about the next thing they want to do at Raglan, because it's always about the next thing they want to do at Raglan, and full credit to them. But that was a good day out too. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Two things to follow on from yours. One, yes, we should always be looking at what's the next thing. What do these communities want? Once we've provided something, there's always something new that's on the agenda, and that's part and parcel of what we do here. And secondly, the Mount Bolton Lions. As a onlooker and partner of a lion, we were very disappointed to see the Avoca Lions closed down many years ago. And it was just that the group became quite old, didn't want to take on the roles again and again and again, and eventually the Lions folded. The beauty of that unfortunate event was that a number of them joined the men's shed. And a lot of the things that Lions do, the men's shed now become involved in. So one door closed, another door opened. But the support we need for our volunteer groups never diminishes. We always need people joining these volunteer groups to keep them alive and keep them going. Getting to my items, I represented the Shire at the RSL Club in Beaufort on Vietnam Veterans Day, and apparently used someone else's wreath, but we won't go into that discussion. But it was it was a lovely service and a lovely day to be there and support the RSL on a day of quite significant remembrance. The CEO and I went to Parliament House, spoke to Minister Melissa Horne about a number of issues relating to Pyrenees Shire and other matters. And she seemed very, very receptive for what we wanted to discuss, and passed on a number of things to various people, and I've seen correspondence relating to some of that coming back to us already, which is wonderful. We met with one of the road minister's assistants. The road minister was otherwise engaged, and again, some of the things that we discussed there, the various roads, some of the roads that we look after within the Shire are definitely not a local road and should be a road of significance. And we're working on seeing what we can do there to change the assignment of that road. And we also spoke to the Nationals leader, Peter Walsh, on some water matters throughout the Shire and the region. Peter's knowledge and history in water matters and other matters within the Victorian political scene was very interesting to have a discussion with him. And lastly, the Bulldogs Foundation evening this afternoon with the participants in the course. It's lovely to see young, community-minded juniors interested to put their hand up and join those sorts of events and become involved in their community. I hope that they go further with it and become community leaders as they get older and take on roles, because younger people have to start taking on roles within our community. Otherwise, communities do not survive. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching our meeting tonight. Again, I apologise for the technical issues at the beginning of the meeting. I hope you've held on and waited to watch the meeting with us, and I appreciate your support. I'll now close the meeting at 7:26. Have a lovely evening. Good night.